Good morning to all of you in the Devil Dog Day Trade community. My name is Michael, and we'll be going through our day trading setup process for today, December 15th, 2021. Special welcome to all of you who have served or are serving in the armed forces, and a extra special welcome to all my fellow Marines out there. Semper Fi, Jarheads. Just to note, we do have information that's presented to a bunch of different levels of understanding and experience here. We do try and make it relevant for anyone that's tuning in. However, if you have any questions while you're watching the live show, please drop us a note in the chat box, and we'll make sure that we get an answer back to you. If you're watching later on, leave us a comment below or send us an email, and we'll make sure that we get those answers back to you as quickly as we can. Also, check out the channel for the Devil Dog Day Trading 101 playlist. You'll get some educational videos in there, kind of a little bit of a tutorial about how we go through our trading process, some of the terms that we use, and some of the processes and structure that we use here on this channel. Let's take a look at quickly what happened yesterday, and then also look forward to today. We got a really big day today with the FOMC announcement. Also doing jumping back in, doing a much deeper dive into some of our cryptocurrencies, and then just a teaser for later on this week. You guys should see in the educational video area a release sometime either this weekend or Monday for our approach to cryptocurrencies, how we're going to start day trading that. So look for that coming up soon. So flipping over to Forex Factory, just quick review of yesterday. We did have the one announcement at 8:30 a.m. For the PPI. It was a very positive number, which did cause a spike in all of the indexes. But then I guess overall fear is probably the best way to put it about what's going to happen with the FOMC announcements today really did drag things back down again until the end of the day when we had that little bounce up from our ES and YM areas. So looking forward to today. The only thing, we've got a couple things that have already happened over in England with the British markets there. All of them are looking positive. And we do have a couple of things happening at 8:30 as well, and some of these you can see are the red folders. Canadian CPI, which we're not that interested in. However, it can impact the U.S. index markets a little bit. More importantly, though, core retail sales and retail sales, these are very big numbers, specifically in this particular season here. So we're looking for positive numbers there. But again, I would expect a little bit of a muted response to those numbers today because, generally speaking, everyone is focused on FOMC, which comes up at 2 p.m., which is the release of the statement. And we don't expect any significant change here. The bigger place that we're going to look for change here coming up to 30 is the press conference. That's when the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell will be speaking. The words that he uses there will have a significant impact on the markets overall today. That's what we'll be looking at. And also, we will be doing a live stream at 2:25 p.m. Eastern Time. And what we're going to do for the first time ever is, for me anyways, is to watch the cryptocurrencies during the press conference. Usually watch index markets there, but we're going to watch cryptocurrencies this time. So if you're interested in that, interested in how the FOMC impacts crypto, please log into that, and it'll be an interesting time. We'll all be going through this together, and I'll be learning right alongside of you as we do that event. All right, let's flip over to our correlation markets here before we get into the index ones. Focus today, again, is going to be on FOMC in general and then crypto. So we'll go through the correlation markets first. We'll go through the index markets because we want to make sure that we're set up for anything that happens with FOMC. And then we'll go look through all of our cryptocurrencies. And again, just generally speaking, a weekly look at the deep dive for crypto, but then also what we can potentially expect some of the bigger, higher time frame areas and how they might react to the FOMC announcement. So DAX first, a little bit of continuing weakness here, which again wasn't expecting this when the days leading up to FOMC. Those typically are up days for the index markets, so I think that it just demonstrates that there's fairly significant amount of fear and concern in the markets here. We still are coming up from this overall very strong weekly zone that we have drawn here on the daily chart. I would not expect price to go too much below there unless something drastic happens with the announcement like maybe they're, something just completely unexpected. Right now, the markets seem to have built in rate increases starting mid next calendar year. But if they bump that up to early next calendar year or change something else, about the plans, you could definitely see a significant change there. So nothing on the daily chart that we're looking at. Nothing has changed there. Nothing has really changed on the 240-minute chart either. However, we'll go to the hourly chart, and we're just going to highlight these areas, although we're just going to be very cautious of them because hourly chart and on below that for days like this tends to not work, right? You're really looking at more like a 240 or a daily time zone or time frame areas that will work and be strong enough to handle what the announcement gives here. But we do have so a couple of areas that are significant interest here as price has dropped down. We've got this area right here, which you could look for a potential a very short-term trade if you looked at this today before the announcement and got in something like this. I just wouldn't be in it while the announcement was going on. And then I'll draw this area right here as just an area of interest, not an actual zone, but it's got enough movement of change here to the left, and the structure is good enough that you could see a potential smaller move coming out of there. I would really look if the FOMC announcement is negative, price comes down into the 60-minute areas that are part of the overall weekly zone here. These could potentially be areas where you might want to get back on another long position there. All right, I'm going to flip over to TradeStation now for the remainder of our looks, and let's start with the dollar. And we are jump over here to the weekly real quick to see if we've broken our consolidation area, and we have not, although we are very close to it. So you can see here we're starting to get this move up above. Again, no real indication of where this is going to go. It really is going to entirely depend on what happens at the 2:30 press conference there. So I wouldn't look to take anything based on a line maybe breaking this consolidation area here even just slightly this morning or even early afternoon. Wait until after the announcement happens before you take anything there. But just note that we still haven't actually broken that area. Nothing new on a daily zone, nothing new created on a 240-minute area. We'll just look at the 60-minute to see if there's anything here that we think is strong enough to withstand anything with the announcement. And I will say, we are still looking at this overall strength in the dollar, and you've got a really nice formation set up here, this picture perfect zone that we've talked about before, right here. This is far enough below that you could probably take these again. So this is what I was taught early on. If you've never traded into an announcement like this, don't. Watch it a couple of times. Do simulated trades here, because things can sometimes get really, really weird, and you want to make sure that you experience that in a simulated manner or paper trading before you ever do it live. If you have traded it live, then you know what your rules are, and just follow those no matter what happens today. Follow your rules, even if it's something is looking different or something is looking, like it might be good. That doesn't align with your rules. If you follow your rules the entire time, you will not be disappointed in the end. All right, let's look at the VIX, because we did have an area of interest here that we thought could potentially come into play today. So just pull that up on a 240-minute chart. We'll look through these, and I think this area here did almost exactly what we thought it was going to do yesterday, where we had said, we had these two smaller zones that were coming, the 240-minute zones coming out of this bigger one. And there just wasn't any strength in there at all for these, and sure enough, they did not hold because we're just too far down in this overall move. So weren't expecting them to work anyway, so this wasn't a surprise. But we did come up, and this overall bigger area is holding. Again, not that big of a surprise here. We knew this was fairly strong since price had just popped into here barely, and then had a fairly strong move out. What I could absolutely see happening today, though, is during the announcement or the press conference, you could see the price or the VIX move up very, very quickly up into this 240-minute area up here at 29.47. If it does that and hits some of our daily zones on the indexes, that would be a good place to go ahead and take a long position on the indexes. So we'll look for that correlation while all of that is going on. And then just jumping down to the 60-minute chart just to see if there's anything smaller that was created in the last day that we would have interest in, and nothing that is uniquely different than the 240-minute zones that we have drawn anyway. So look at the Nikkei. Again, we want to just see if there's any other indications here of what might be going on overnight in the Japanese market. Nothing on the daily chart that's new. So we're looking at 240, and you can see we got very, very close to our zone down here. This one is probably too close to use for the announcement later on today. Again, it would just depend on if you've got other indexes having the same zone structure. And then, of course, there is nothing up and left. There's no shorts that you look at here on this time frame. On a 60-minute, we did see price just bounced out of this area here. We had price come in, down, it bounced out, and then just kept going down through it as well. Nothing new created here. Again, all of these other structures that I might look at outside of an FOMC day are there, but not take anything that doesn't look that strong, that's this close to current price, just based on what's going on right now. So we're not going to get any help from the Nikkei here. Let's go ahead and jump into our indexes overall. And so we sent a note out on this late yesterday, right? We had, and I'll just start right here with the 240-minute chart since there's nothing new on the daily yet. But we did come down right into this area here that also lined up with the YM. So you had both indexes that were relatively strong areas of support here. And sure enough, price did move up out of there. I would not use these as zones for the announcement either. They're not strong enough. The only thing that I would say here is if price does come down through here and you had a very quick retracement on a smaller time frame to get short, I would absolutely do that because if price breaks this support area, it's going to keep dropping down. And it's going to go, and I'll come back to this to show you a couple of other things, but it's going to come down probably to our daily zone here. And we have quite a few of the indexes have this structure. On the daily zone, that's right below this last pivot low here. This will end up be where price will probably come down to if we break down through that lower area there. So real quick, back over to our 240-minute charts. I just want to show this. Here we did have this area that was created yesterday. And just shows that there is additional weakness here. It's not a zone. We're not trading this. This would just be an area of resistance that we can monitor. Both of these will kind of give us indicators, right? If price pushes up through here, we know we've got some additional strength coming back in. If it drops down below this number, you've got a ways to go, get back on a short and continue to take that down. All right, let's see if we've got anything new on a 60-minute chart. We did have this one here. Again, I think this one was one that was lined up with one of the ones on the NQ as well. And as you can see, price just, blew through this like it was standing still. Dark red. Again, we're not going to go any lower than this. The only areas that I would say that I'm interested in any way, shape, or form at all on is you get all the way back up in here, and you've got an interesting structure right here, a little bit of a rally base drop, super strong drop coming out of here. This happened when the markets opened 2 days ago, so relatively strong. The only obviously if you even think about taking this, let's just back out real quick. You are in a completely sideways trend, taking a short on an indexed market. My rules would not let me do this. I have to be in a confirmed downtrend on an index market in order to take it, or have some other significant odds enhancer there. So just watch that. These are areas more of interest for me, but they do fit our zone structure fairly well. And then just real quick looking at the 15-minute to see is there anything that we are interested in prior to the announcement, right? You can still take day trades, prior to the announcement. You've got a little bit of time. I will say, generally speaking, these price movement throughout today, barring the, so 8:30 has already happened. And as you can see here, actually, let me just pull that up for you real quick just to see what the response was. For the core retail sales. Core retail sales was down. Actually quite a bit. So they expected 9% and 8%, or 0.9%, 0.8%, and we were down to 0.3. So it's usually something of that big of a difference would have probably a bigger move on the markets. But flipping back over here to TradeStation, as you can see, we didn't get much of a movement at all. Everything is going to be muted because we're waiting for this announcement to happen. This pattern that you see here is probably one that you're going to see for the rest of the day. Just this back and forth. You're not going to see any significant moves out of here, which means if you do take a shorter time frame trade, and I'll look to the left here because there's some really good areas that you might want to take a look at. This one right here is already used. That one actually worked out pretty well yesterday. And then you've got one down below here. If you're taking any of these, and I'll actually draw this one too, these are going to be very short time frame trades. Either have very close targets like a 2 or 3 to 1, or if you get in them and price didn't move directly out of it and you're getting close to that 2 p.m. area, just keep close that trade out. As chances are these zones are not going to hold during the announcement. All right, let's look at NQ. And just this higher time frame area, show this daily area as well, because we are interested in this. If price comes down into what we have defined here as this area of interest, it's not an actual zone. However, it's in the relatively same location that ES zone is at. So if price comes into both of these at the same time, that's a really good indicator that they're going to work, or at least one of them is going to work and work fairly well. So that's what we're looking for as an odds enhancer as price moves down into those areas potentially after or during the press conference. This area that we saw on the 240-minute time frame on ES, same one here that's in the NQ, and what we saw is price did come in here, bounced out of it, and then dropped down again, which was not unexpected at all, because these are, again, just areas of interest that we weren't really expecting to hold as zones. We do have a zone below here, but I want to change this for today because of the announcement that I would not automatically take any trades here. Similar to what we saw on the ES, you've got this same area right here, right above, for a potential short. Again, wouldn't take that during the announcement, but if price comes up into there, you can maybe take it for a quick trade prior to, but I would not rely on that to work for the announcement. All right, 60-minute area. We have, again, another area of interest. The NASDAQ is a little overall weaker. You can see here we're actually in a downtrend right now. Higher time frame, still sideways trend, but at least it's a downtrend on the lower time frames here. Again, I would watch price come into here, not during the announcement, but maybe prior to it. You'd be fine. And you're already into. I'll call this. It's technically a zone, but I'll call it more. This is an area of support, or sorry, of resistance here, and it is. You can see price is struggling to get through there, which is not surprising given that at this time frame we are in an overall downtrend. All right, take a look at our 15-minute, just in case there's something that we want to quickly get into. We did have this one from yesterday. I don't think I talked about this one yesterday, but we did have this area here. Oh, we did talk about this, that it was too far out of it. That's why we wouldn't have taken this automatically. However, it did work. So we'll just mark that, that it did work, even though we weren't taking it. And I need to clean up a couple of these areas here. This is the same area that we have on that 60-minute chart that you're seeing down here, broken down into a couple of different zones in the 15. Again, nothing that you're going to take during the announcement, but if price comes up in here prior to, that would be a pretty good area to take something, just again, short time frame. Make sure that you're not in that trade unless you have just like one contract left, as you're going to leave as a runner or something like that, just to take advantage of another move down. But just be very careful, because prices can go through those zones very, very quickly during an announcement like that, and your stops will slip quite a bit, and you could potentially lose a lot more than you were expecting to. Same structure here in the 15-minute chart that we had on ES. So again, prior to the announcement, if your trade plan says you can take these, then go for it. But again, I wouldn't hold any sizable position based on these zones through the announcement. This one has already been used. Okay. All right, RTY, and then we'll get to the YM as well. Just make sure we've got a good picture on all the indexes here. RTY is still significantly the weakest, and remember, we are just waiting on this area right in here to break down. This price goes below here, look for it to drop pretty significantly. If it goes below here, these areas above become actual zones, and would be very, very great places to look for a retracement to come back up, and for a bigger move back down from there. We don't have anything on a daily area here on RTY that is going to stop this. Just looking at any potential bigger time frames. Just in case we do get that move down, of where we would want to look at it. Let me zoom in on this. We've got not a whole lot, unfortunately. We've got this area here on a weekly zone that's already been used, but could be used again. Remember, it wasn't completely, the zone is not completely used, and it's a it's a weekly zone on an index, a demand zone. So wouldn't surprise me that this works again, but I would definitely look for confirmation there. And as I just look lower, I don't even have anything here on a weekly chart that I like. So you'll probably have to find that turning point on other indexes. It'll be in our, that zones we saw on the ES and the NQ. And then I'll take a look at YM after we finish up RTY. Again, really not looking at anything below. Got nothing there, and I don't have any retracement areas outside of those daily zones that I'm interested on in RTY either, so nothing that's going to drive price there. On a 60-minute chart, of course, we're not looking anywhere below here. Looking up and left, nothing else new has been created in the last couple of days, so we don't have to spend a whole lot of time there. And that's it for RTY. Let's go ahead and look at YM, because this did provide us another area of that support at the 240-minute time frame. We've got this view right here on a daily chart. However, the reason why this is not a strong zone, and I should have drawn it like this, I'm sorry I didn't change that to dashed lines. It's not a strong zone because we didn't take any of this stuff out over here. We needed to take this would actually be a swing high over here. We needed to take this out before we consider this a strong zone. We really are looking for, if price comes down through all of this, the only thing that I would say here, if for some reason the Dow doesn't react as strongly as ES and NQ do during the press conference, and they drop into their zones and YM hits this area at the same time, then that would be enough indication that this area could work and take a smaller time frame trade in here. But I would just be very cautious of price stopping here and not going through, this call it white space. It's not strong white space, but this area right in here, and we would be looking for something lower down here. Now, it really doesn't exist. So I'm looking down and left through all of this. I'm not seeing anything of any strength whatsoever until I get all the way down to here. So that's quite a ways, and that would not line up with either the other with any of the other index markets at all there. So 240-minute time frame, we had this area. Again, this was lined up with the ES one. They both hit the same area at about the same time. So you saw price bounce up from here. Again, this will be your breaking point. If price drops below here, it's going to keep moving. We've turned this area right here into an area of resistance. And so it's same thing here, right? If price goes up through there, you're probably going to see a bigger push up. But really, what you look for the bigger one is this lower area here. Price drops through here, it's going to keep moving, and it's going to go for a bit of a ride. On a 60-minute time frame, we had the 60-minute zone on all of the indexes, and we had it worked on, sorry, I'm zooming in here for you. It did work on the YM. So let me just draw that one in there. It didn't work on the other two, but it did work here. I know it sometimes seems a little bit counterproductive to take trades in the same area on all the index markets, but this is why. The zones themselves very specifically may not work, but the areas generally work when they're all combined like that. So if you take depending on what your targets are, it's one of the reasons why I use a 4-to-1 target ratio. Is I can take trades on all of the index markets, and as long as one of them works in that area, we're still profitable. I've got nothing else new here created, and certainly nothing down lower here that I'm going to be interested in at this low of a time frame today. So that's nothing else new there. All right, just want to look at one other market from a correlation perspective. So it is a Forex one, the Euro USD pair, just because it can sometimes impact where the dollar goes as well. So you'll see a significant spike on this one depending on what the announcement is at 2:30. All right, just because we've talked about it a few times now, We had this area on the 60-minute chart that we thought, was going to work out very well for us, and it, just price came close to it 2 times, the exact same spot, and just didn't quite trigger those orders there. But note, we did create a picture perfect zone right here, and these zones actually overlap a bit. This just shows you, right, you've got some additional weakness in this market here. Price coming from this area did clear out the previous pivot lows over here. Again, pretty good indications that if price does come back up this area, we're going to see them move down out of here. I'm going to go ahead and mark these as ones that we would actually take. I will be adjusting my my trade for this one as well. It was currently sitting at this upper area up here. Didn't trigger, so I'll move it down into probably take both of these zones here as price comes back up into, if it does. But that's really the only thing that we have here, right? Even on a daily time frame, we're still stuck in that same area that the dollar is in, right? Where you just got, starting to form this white space here. Prices just moving back and forth in this same area. So wouldn't be jumping in on anything long here, and we've got ways to go before we hit down to this 1.1 area where we can get a much longer time frame trade up. Okay, let's go ahead jump over and look at crypto now. We'll spend the rest of our time there, look through all of the pairs that we're tracking there, and talk a little bit about how we're going to be managing this moving forward. So flip back over to TradingView, since that's the platform we're using for monitoring crypto, and we'll go to our overall list. This tracks the top 18 cryptocurrencies by market cap. And I'm still, as you'll see here, some of the zones that we've drawn recently that have gone away. I'm building out the tracking sheet and starting to add all of these to it. So we've got really good data points as we move into actively day trading this starting next week. And so you'll see some of these zones are still here because I'm still filling them out. Turns out tracking cryptocurrency is a little bit different than tracking the other markets that I have been. So I've had to adapt to that and modify some of the tracking metrics that I take here. So a little bit of a slow start there, but we'll have all of this stuff done this week so that when we jump into it starting next week with the active trades, you'll be able to see all of those data points as we track these things through. So starting just at our higher time frames, right, daily time frame, we still have this zone down here below, very, very strong one. You saw the wick as price came down into this area and moved drastically out of it. Still highly expect that price comes back down into there. It's going to struggle getting through here. So this should be open for taking long positions here. We do have this area right here. And I'll leave this as just an area of interest because price has already come up into here once and then move back down. So it'll be interesting to just watch what price does as it comes back up into this area here. Just note, kind of our thoughts about whole numbers. Right, this zone's sitting right at 60,000, so there could be some additional significance to that one there. A little bit of additional strength. On a 240-minute chart, we have some new areas created yesterday. And as you can see, one of them already hit right here. And then you've got the other half of the picture perfect zone up here. This price movement did take out this previous pivot low here. I would expect these to work until we get down into that daily zone. If we get into that daily zone and then price comes back up into here, I would not expect these to be strong zones. So this is one of those ones where as long as it's just quick retracements in here, good to go. If we're coming back out of the daily zone, I wouldn't take any trades here or close any out from a targeting perspective. Nothing really new on the 60-minute time frame. We had a couple of really good 15-minute ones work over the past few days here, and I just bring up this one right here. Would have worked for a shorter term trade overnight, and then you've got this area right down here as well. Again, remember, these are all just very short-term trades. We're in an area where we don't want to be taking any longer-term ones, even based on shorter time frames. We need to get either back up into that 240-minute area or down into the daily zone before we do that. All right, so I look at Ethereum now, and we still have a couple of really good daily zones on Ethereum. One that's already been used. However, again, the strength of this zone and the fact that it's along on what for all intents and purposes could be called an index market for cryptocurrencies. It's the second strongest one. So I wouldn't worry too much about taking another trade here. Maybe just a smaller amount. Not anything full size, but I would certainly think that this one's going to work. If it doesn't, you're going to have a bigger move back down to this 2800 area here. But again, this one, another very strong daily zone. And nothing above it that's really holding things back at this point. All right, 240-minute time frame. I've got the same picture perfect zone structure right here, and we'll draw these out. First one is a little bit messier. Those base candles are not as perfect as I normally like to see them. However, still pretty strong indicators, as price did take out the previous pivot low here. As you can see, we haven't taken this bigger one out here, but that's because that's a daily zone there. We wouldn't expect price from these areas here to take that daily zone out. On a 60-minute time frame, we've got just one area here that is of interest, and really nothing below until we get down into that daily zone. And on a 15-minute time frame, we have got this area right here, right above what we've got. Basically, a little bit messy, but it's pretty much white space area right above it. Those are good ones. Again, this would be a retracement trade. If price comes back up into here before it breaks down through all of this stuff down here, that's when you are looking for trades like these. These are not counter trend trades. These are trades that you take with the trend as quick retracements. If I look here, a couple of ones that we missed. So this area right here is a good indication of that, right? Where you had this really very good picture perfect structure here. And if you're looking left, right, we didn't take out this pivot low here, so you knew this was a very strong trade, and sure enough, that one worked well. This one worked so well, I wouldn't think the lower one would work to the same extent. You're probably going to get more like a 1-to-1 out of that. I'll leave this area here as an area of interest rather than an actual zone itself, just because it's a little bit too messy looking left, and again, especially from today's perspective, have no idea what cryptocurrencies do with an FOMC announcement. So area of interest only. We'll just watch it, and for these ones, I won't take any trades at all. We're just going to document what happens. That'll give us some good data for the next month's release as well. All right, going to DOT. Nothing really on a daily chart here, and as we get into the 240-minute area, you've got this same structure here. This zone exists on about 75% of the currencies that we're following right now. Again, good indications that they are fairly strong ones. You will see that I think one or two of them did already break. One of them I think was Dogecoin. We'll get to that next. I think that was because of the Elon Musk tweet the other day. But we do have some additional weakness showing up in these areas. Right, we've got another picture perfect zone that we're looking at right here, and this price movement did take out this pivot low to the left, so some overall strength here. I'll go ahead and mark these as potential trade areas rather than just areas of interest. And then again, nothing below it all, nothing where we can get any strength out of this market. Just reviewing our hourly time frame, we did have this trade here that worked. I still have to document it. The next one down below, which I would have expected to work more than it did, the price just dropped completely through there, right? Like it didn't even exist. And then just because this was a picture perfect zone here, right, that didn't take out this pivot low over here, but did take out the pivot high to the left. This is why this one works. Obviously, this first one didn't work here. I will document that in our tracker just for historical perspective, and then we'll monitor this lower one here is the stronger zone. And so I would actually be surprised if price does come down through here. We could get a little bit of a bigger move back up out of here before it comes down again. So let me actually change these to long positions real quick. So make sure that they're tracked appropriately. All right, on a shorter time frame. So you'll see that we did this picture perfect zone here. It really did work out very well for us. These would have been shorts. So again, this is just I'm backtracking a lot of these things, right? So not just looking back at it and go, oh, this is why it worked, rather than setting them up ahead of time. I'm doing this on purpose so that I can document them so I can go put them into the tracker and build the data set that we need to build so we can create our rules from it. So not saying that these are trades that we should have automatically known here, but that structure fits our rules. And so this just helps me document that for the historical record so that I can build out our rules for this with more data points. All right, so let's Dogecoin. We don't have anything really on a daily chart that we're worried about. So this is what I was talking about on the 240 minute, where you had this exact same structure here. And whenever something like this happens, right? And of course, for some reason, Elon Musk really does like Dogecoin, and so when he tweets out information like he did the other day, this is what happens, right? It dramatically affects this market in particular. But as you can see, when stuff like this happens and it's it's based on a news announcement or something, price starts reverting back to where it was based on supply and demand very, very quickly. So I will mark this one. This is and there's note in our tracker. This is why this zone didn't work, because of a news announcement. But you do see a price coming right back down to where we expect it to. Hourly chart, I'm not seeing anything new here, and you can see on this one again, just using this kind of for back testing. You can see here that this picture perfect zone area did work out really well overall too. So I'm going to mark that so I can track it and put it into our metrics document. And nothing else here. All right, let's go to AVAX. And we got again this picture perfect zone on the daily chart. So we'll mark these areas off. Now, price did not take anything out significantly down here. I wouldn't expect these to work as strongly until we came and take out this pivot low to the left over here. However, you get a quick retracement up here. These might be good for a shorter time frame trade. And then we do have this area of what I probably would have drawn as an area of interest at the time. it did end up working. So I will document that as an area of interest only. That again, I do this because it does help us build out our rules later on, depending on how each one of these structures works. Keep going lower here on the daily chart, and then you've got an area here. This is an actual zone itself, though, and it's hard to determine what to do with some of these areas, right? These fit our zone structure pretty well, but you are talking about 3 base candles on a daily chart. That's when you start getting into a little bit more uncertainty here, and I'm going to actually mark this one as an area of interest only. All right, 240-minute chart. Let's see if we've got any smaller time frames that might work for us. And as I'm just looking up and left, what worked, what didn't work. Looking again at our zone structures, you can see we had one here. This one worked out very well. And then as I'm looking down, so we've talked about this formation before. You can see this one right here, right? We have this leg candle in, a base candle, another leg candle out. However, the wick on this base candle exceeded the length of the leg out, so I typically stay away from those. But as you can see, this area still, it's proving to be an area of resistance, and it is working out fairly well. So as we keep coming down here, I would have drawn these areas out here because this was our picture perfect zone setup, and they did not work this time. We were held down by this overall picture here, so I'll document that in our tracker, again, just for historical purposes. And nothing else here that I'm interested in, right? This will be the ones where if this area doesn't hold and price goes up here, look for that bigger move up. If it does hold and price comes back down and goes through the 74, 76 area, you're probably looking at a bigger drop later on. But sorry, I meant to go into the smaller time frames first. So an hourly chart, if I'm looking down and left first, this area here jumps out at me, but I don't like it. It's not strong, so we'll leave it as an area of interest only. It's also too close to current price and too high up in this overall move up here. Looking up and left, nothing that I would have drawn as a zone before, so I'm not going to draw anything there, even for historical purposes. On a 15-minute chart, though, we have got, this would be a counter trend trade here, and probably already hit, honestly, right here. I like it only because you look left, you can see a price change in this area a couple of times. It did take out the previous pivot low right here as well. And so it doesn't surprise me that price is moving out of there. But this is not going to be a big move, right? This would be a much smaller one. As I'm looking down and left, I am interested in this area right here. Keeps us within the overall trend. Would be out of this white space created right here, and actually we have two zones on top of each other. This lower one is probably the stronger one, because as you look left here, you see that's where the significant price change happened. But both of them are valid, and I'll mark this one as a long itself. All right. Get down into Shiba, and we're still in this daily zone here. I don't have, well, let's blow this up. Technically speaking, this is still a zone at the bottom of this area right here. We'll track it. I'm not sure how well these very, very, very small zones work. It'll be interesting to just see and put into the metrics chart. 240-minute time frame, we've got this same area here. We've got this on a lot of our cryptocurrencies is 240-minute area here. We've only seen, I think, one of them break at this point, so the other ones are still valid. Nothing else up and left here, and I'm not going to go any lower until we get into that daily time frame on this one. On a 60-minute chart, we have nothing at all. Everything is just too messy there. And then other thing you can look at too, you see this on a 15-minute chart. You see how the chart looks a little bit blockier, right? It's not as smooth. That's because it is prices moving very, very small increments and not a lot of volume in it. And so when I see this format, this type of chart where it looks like it's almost more like pixelated than it is, full candles, I generally speaking don't even look for trades there, because that just means the volume is too low, the price movements are too low. You're not going to have any good zones created. Matic, we've still got these very strong areas here on our daily chart. Both of them have been used already, but again, still very strong. I've got nothing above that I'm interested in. On a 240-minute chart, we've got this area right here. Still a fairly strong one. Mark that as a short position. Look down and left. I got nothing here because this wick right here in the middle took everything out to the left, and there's nothing left in here that's worth taking at this point. We're coming into a 60-minute area right now. I just scrolled down here, smush this down. Overall sideways trend, so technically speaking, any trades would work depending on what your trade plan says. I do this one and I look left on this. I like what I see. I see this, it took out another zone right here, and you can see a smaller move up here. I don't know that this would change, this is going to change trend, but it certainly is certainly good. Could get a smaller move out of this one. Same thing down here. Highly more likely that you're going to have a bigger move out of this lower zone here, because you're further down into this corrective action here. And just a refresher, this is a 60-minute. On a 240-minute chart, we would look at our trend, and we see we are, technically speaking, still in an overall uptrend. So the long position would be the way to go here. On a 15-minute chart, looking at anything smaller that we can take advantage of. You've got some areas down here that are, these are kind of built into the 60-minute areas that we talked about. I'll just draw the whole thing right here. Since they correspond with them, maybe use these for maybe a little bit more precise entry point. All right, CRO. On a daily chart here, the only thing that I've got that is even two things that are remotely interesting. This area here, which has already been used, and the second daily candle it ever created. It did create a bit of a zone. Because price moved up and out of this one, I would say when it comes down to here, you may have, this probably is the bottom of it. You're not going to get too much lower. So yeah, if you get all the way down to here, that's probably going to be a pretty solid place to get back in another long position. On a 240-minute chart, this wick came through, and you've got to get below it before you're interested in anything. As I'm looking down and left, nothing jumps out at me. Up and left, this area here almost presents as a picture perfect zone, but not quite. We didn't have that good strong leg candle in, so we're not going to draw it. On a 60-minute chart, we've got this area that I saw at the document. Worked out very, very well for us. We are now in a downtrend here, so I'd be looking more for short positions than long ones. and you've got this area right here, which I would be very interested in taking if again, price retraces up in here rather than goes all the way down into some other higher time frame zone and back up. And then I actually missed this other half of the picture perfect trade right here, which is working out well for us. That would be why price hasn't gone below this area here. All right, anything on a shorter time frame for this one? We've got completely sideways here, but remember, bigger picture, we're in an overall down trend, but I'm not seeing anything that's not already used that I'm interested in taking here. All right, WBTC. All right, on a daily chart. Got this area right here on a daily chart, fairly strong zone. Looking up and left, and nothing that I'm interested in here. 240-minute chart. This is our standard 240-minute area formation that we see on just about every single other chart. And we do have the same shorter one here. This barely qualifies, but does qualify as a picture perfect zone. So that's why we're going to go ahead and mark it. And as you can see, it's at least responding to it to some degree. All right, on an hourly chart, overall down trend here. So as I'm looking up and left, looking for additional short positions, not seeing anything, and I can't take anything long here until we get past this wick here. So not really interested there. On a 15-minute chart, we had this area right here that actually looked fairly strong. Turns out it wasn't. Price just came right back down through it. Again, we're in a downtrend, so longs would be a counter trend trade here. I'm looking for more shorts. I'm not seeing anything either. So nothing else to look at there. Let's go to Litecoin. We've got just a couple, 1 minute left. We'll get through a couple more of these. Litecoin. Daily chart. Yes, technically speaking, this was a zone. Right here, not a strong one. But it is, you can see it is still holding price up here. I've got nothing else that I'm really interested in. Looking down and left, up and left, nothing. Well, so we have this area here that's already worked. Right. I would not take that one again. So 240-minute time frame, same zone. That worked out there. We don't see the picture perfect zone in this lower area here like we have on a couple other ones, so nothing to dig into there. Hourly chart. I've got this area right here because I'm looking left. That one looks pretty reasonable, so we'll mark it. Nothing down and left though here. And then we'll finish off with the 15-minute area. Again, remember we're in an overall down trend, so we're not looking to take any longs here. As I look up and left, I'm not seeing anything that is good enough to take here. So we'll end with that one with Litecoin. I will continue to track all of these throughout the day, and again throughout the rest of this week. When we jump on at 2:25 p.m. Eastern time today to do the FOMC press conference live review, we'll have some more of these tracked and marked up, and we'll just look at it live and see what happens. So thank you guys for joining. Thanks for participating in the show. If you have any questions or comments, leave us a note and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel so you get notifications when we get the additional educational videos out. And look forward to seeing everyone again at 2:25 p.m. Eastern time today. Have a happy and safe trading day.